Hey guys, it's Christina. This is Vox and Guest, and I am joined today by the incredibly talented Alex Pastuhov. Say hello, Alex, to everyone.
Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I have been waiting for a long time to talk to you, and finally have you in my clutches. We have a lot of music to get to, but you probably don't know this, and I didn't prepare you ahead of time because that's how I am. I'm just like a guerrilla journalist, like guerrilla. But I do feel like it's important to make everyone answer a super important question at the beginning of every show.
Okay.
And I'm going to do that here, and I want you to really be honest, okay? Because I will know if you're lying. We have you hooked up. You just don't know it to a lie detector and everything. But this is a question, and I think especially as somebody who spent any time in Manhattan, I think this is a good one for you. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm prepared. I'm going to dig deep.
Okay, so you're on the street, you're walking, and somebody waves, and you wave back, and then you realize that they were actually waving at somebody behind you. Do you just chuckle and move on with your day, or do you immediately leave the country and start a whole new life?
I think I just got to chuckle and move on with my day.
Okay, so you're not just throwing it all away. You're not going to move to Toronto and become John Jacobs or whatever. You're gonna
Sure.
stick with your life. You're gonna live through that personal horror. Okay.
There were times when that would have hurt me, would have affected me more, I think. But I think if it was to happen tomorrow,
okay,
I'd just be like, Alex, you're an idiot, and then I would move on.
So you've grown as a person. You've grown from someone who would have had to completely start over, leave family and friends behind, all of it, all of your music gear, just yeet yourself into another country, and you're staying, and
Right,
you're just gonna be that guy. So guys, if anybody sees Alex on the street and you wave at him, but not at him, he's cool. It's not going to bother him at all.
It's the kind of thing, though, that would tend to happen to me wherever I go. So even if I did go to another country, it would happen to me there. And then I'd have to go to another country, and it would just be like this continuous movement.
So you would just be like Carmen Sandiego. You would just be moving from place to place all the time.
It's like, I'm propelled by embarrassment.
Look at that. Hey, it's better than frequent flyer miles. You just get your way. Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you will stand strong, because I think we've all had that moment of like, who is that? Oh my God, they're not talking to me.
For sure.
And then you want the ground to just open up under you and swallow you whole. So, all right, good for you, Alex. I'm glad you're not leaving, because then I would have to re-find you again and maybe miss out on some music in the interim. So I'm glad you're not going anywhere. But okay, nothing we cover is going to be that meaningful from now on. So it's all downhill from here. But you are one of my favorite kinds of musicians, in addition to being one of my favorite musicians, where you are a singer-songwriter. You've been doing this for longer than it looks like you should be old enough to do it. You're more than 20 years, right, at this point?
Goodness. I mean, it's coming up on that. It's coming up on that. As far as writing songs and performing, yes. It's coming up on that, yeah.
Okay,
Yikes.
yeah. Well, now that I've ruined your day. So I would love to get into how you became a musician in the first place, because obviously this is something you've done pretty much your whole life, but what got you into it? How old were you? What was your gateway? Were you a band kid? Was this something in the house growing up? What's your musical backstory?
Yeah. I guess my first kind of musical experiences were probably singing in chorus in middle school.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, of course, there was the obligatory learn the recorder in kindergarten or whatever, but
hot cross buns, yeah,
that didn't stick.
Shocker.
Yeah,
there are not enough recorder bands around these days. There really aren't. But okay,
there's a niche audience for that.
Yeah.
So I think singing it in chorus, which was more of you just do it because your friends are doing it.
Okay. Oh, so you were not like, oh my God, I can't wait to get into the chorus. You were just like, okay, it's fifth grade. I have to do this.
Yeah, there was probably there was girls. It was, it was it was also another way to another thing to do to get out. I don't know, maybe get out of a normal
Okay. Yeah.
class or
Or like
something.
gym or something. Yeah. More than one musician has been born that way. So I totally
Yes, for
understand.
sure. So that would,
Okay.
but, singing like in kind of maybe, although at the time I didn't think I had a good singing voice, I don't think, but,
Huh. Okay.
and then I think when I was about 14, my dad played guitar. So that was like
Okay.
around the house a bit. And
Okay.
he had an old like nylon string classical guitar that he would play.
Okay.
And so I remember picking that up a little bit and just kind of fooling around with it and not really feeling a huge connection to it. And then
Huh.
my biggest like distinct memory is we went on a family trip to Hawaii for like Christmas and New Year's to see my cousins who live there or used to live there.
Okay.
And there was a guitar at the rental place that we were staying at.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, like I remember picking that up and I didn't know like what I was playing. I didn't know, like I wasn't playing chords, but I was strumming some kind of melody that felt really good and was, I don't know, I was really captivated by that. And then after that experience, I guess probably, again, I was like around 14, going back home, and my mom and dad got me an electric guitar and like a little practice amp. And that was kind of, that was the big catalyst, I guess.
Okay. So that's interesting to me because you were around music for a good, maybe like 5-6 years, and especially with your dad, like, and it never clicked until I guess Hawaii was the thing. Full of poi, and you just all of a sudden the door opened. But so I mean, when you say that you didn't think you had a good singing voice, was it just sort of something you didn't think about, or was it like, oh, my voice is changing, it sounds sort of terrible, or just because I gotta think, unless your voice has radically changed, I'm surprised nobody said, hey Alex, like you should do more of it, like the chorus teacher or anybody. So like, what do you put that down to?
I don't know. I have no memory of anybody ever saying like, you have a good singing voice. You should keep doing this. I do remember though, like I'm old enough to remember like when I would be on the school bus going to elementary school, kids would bring boom boxes on the school bus and like play tapes. Okay. And I remember, hearing like Bon Jovi, and I was probably like 6 or 7, like a young child, and it was scary to me. I was like, what is this? Like living on a prayer. I remember being like, this feels like threatening, and like I was like, and it was kids like the cool kids in the back of the bus, because of course you sat in the back of the bus, right. It was like all like the cool kids wearing like their like jean jackets, and mind you, I grew up in like a really, really small town, but they would blast like Bon Jovi and and other stuff too that I can't really remember exactly, but that was very specific. So me and my best friend, we brought our own boombox on, but we weren't playing Bon Jovi.
Like John Denver or like Donnie and Marie. Like
no. We were blasting Crisscross.
Oh, you were of the Crisscross
and Michael Jackson.
Were you wearing your pants backwards at the time? This is a key piece of information, Alex. This is artist
See, this
lore.
is one of these things where I'm going to email you in 2 weeks and be like, you remember when I told you how I used to wear my pants backwards?
I absolutely hope you do. And I hope you're like, here's a picture of me desperately trying at the urinal to turn my pants around. I never understood how that was supposed to work. So you roll up, super cool. Let's everybody get this straight. With Crisscross and Michael Jackson, and you are frightened by the satanic tones of John Bon Jovi at this point. I am really wondering what would have happened to you if like Ozzy had been on, or you probably would have literally crapped thyself. But okay, so you were now, was there any part of you?
I was a rather timid, nervous. I was a little bit of a timid, like nervous kid.
Okay, but was there any part of you that was like, but I'm secretly sort of fascinated by it, or was it just abject horror? Okay.
No, I liked it. Like but it was like I didn't know the older kids, so I was like I was a little scared to ask any questions about it. And then I remember like one time like Stanley got kicked off the bus for smoking butts in the back, and like then I was like, it was like the scariest but the coolest thing that had ever happened.
Okay. All right. I have such a sense of how you grew up at this point. It's not even funny. So much of this is resonating. No. I totally.
The bus driver just like slamming on the brakes, like slamming on like mid-drive, being like, Stanley, and calling Stanley down and making him get off. He just kicks him off. And I'm like,
Stanley was not even at a stop. Like
no, he just got kicked off the bus like mid-neighborhood.
Okay, that would not fly now. Yeah, that would not fly. Illegal. I think like school bus driver probably not allowed to just yeet a kid off the bus in the middle of like nowhere. Okay, hardcore Stanley, but Stanley didn't give a shit. Stanley was just like, F the man, that's it. I got my Bon Jovi, nobody can touch me. I am made of steel.
He had, like, his ears pierced. He had like a skull earring. I mean, Stanley looked tough. He looked tough. Now, he wasn't, but he looked really tough. This is
the key question here when I have to assess the level of like terrifying that Stanley was. Did he or did he not have a jean jacket? And was it or was it not acid washed?
It was acid washed.
Knew it.
And he also, if I remember correctly, had like bleached blonde, like spiky kind of hair.
Oh, Stanley was all in. Okay,
Stanley was all in, which was really interesting because like we lived in like a town with like 1,200 people in rural Maine, so I don't know how like tapped into like the zeitgeist he was, but he seemed pretty cool for like a small town dude.
Stanley had his finger on the pulse. It was a weak pulse, but Stanley was right there. Okay, so now are you and your granimals, like what's your deal? Are you like fully, did you have the bowl cut and the turtleneck? Like what was your vibe? Were you like cool little like beatnik Alex? Were you just, wearing your Scooby-Doo sweatshirt, Alex? Like what was your ethos at the moment? I gotta know.
We were pretty like, just a lot of like hand-me-downs, a lot of kind of like thrift store, very like mismatching. I don't know. At one point, I got like the sweet starter jacket, right? So everything was good from that point forward.
Golden cake. It's cake from there out.
From that point forward, like my social status like elevated really high.
Boom! Just drowning in women at that point. You just
so funny. And I had like a Dallas Cowboys one, which had made no sense because
they
were really in Maine. Yeah, but they were really popular.
Does Maine even have a football team?
No, we don't have any professional sports at all.
I didn't think so. Okay, so it's not like the Maine pine coners or anything. Like you're sitting there borrowing. Okay, all right. So you steeped in cool at this point. You've set the stage for us. So you are at 14. You pick up this guitar. And all of a sudden, the love affair begins. So what did you do at that point? Were you primarily trying to learn songs you knew? Were you starting to write originals already? Were you singing too? Or did that come later? What was like, once it hit, where did it go? What did it look like?
The singing piece came later.
Okay.
I remember my friend had an electric guitar already. And so I remember like as soon as I got mine, I got it because I was like, that's cool. And I was like, I want that too.
Yeah.
And also I was getting into it already.
Okay.
And so that really like inspired me to like beg my parents to get one. So that I got that. And I remember immediately we were like, let's get together and jam. Like, I didn't know, we didn't even really know what that meant. Like, let's get together and jam. Like neither of us even knew how to play anything.
Let's do that.
Yeah. And I remember, this is an embarrassing story, but I remember I had like I don't even know if I'd played the guitar. Like it was brand new. And I remember going over to my friend's house and so excited to show him my guitar.
Yeah.
And like, I go to open it, Christina, and the case was upside down and it just like falls out onto like the hard cement floor and like gets like the two gnarliest gashes.
Oh,
no. Immediately. So A, it was incredibly embarrassing. And B, it was just like my brand new guitar was already fucked up.
Yeah. You're the guy that drives the new car off the lot and immediately crashes into a mailbox. Okay, great. All right. But look, hey, it was distressed. Vintage at that point, straight out of the box, vintage, brand new guitar. Okay, so once you figured out which way to open the case and you got the guitar out, did you end up jamming, or was this just sort of like one of those vaguely masturbatory basement things that didn't actually go anywhere? Like, what was I want to know when Alex like when did the magic happen? And when did you start writing? Because so were you learning stuff that was like popular and not threatening?
Nirvana. We were really into Nirvana. Like it was like Nirvana, Deftones, like eventually like Tool. Like that kind of stuff. So we were into like that post-hardcore.
That's a range of difficulty, Alex. From Nirvana to Tool. Like we got feet in very widespread there at that point. So so you started.
We weren't playing Tool songs for sure. No,
I was gonna say, holy shit.
That was far beyond us. Yes, I'm sure we probably took a stab at like Sober or like one of their like somewhat
bigger hits, easier
ones, but we never did that live. So me and my friend, we had that first jam session, and then like we immediately just wanted to start a band. So we did. We started a band, and that was like all through high school.
And this was 2 guitars.
Yeah, it was mostly I was the primary guitar. It was a 4-piece.
So you added people. Okay.
Yeah, the singer played guitar, but he didn't really play in the band. Yeah, so it was guitar, vocals, bass,
drums,
and drums, and it was mostly all original music. We maybe did a couple of covers here and there, but
So are you like in the 15, 16 range at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, so you started, I mean, like, that's not usually what happens where you have, young teenagers that are doing originals. Usually you get the band that learned whatever was popular on the radio. So were you all writing, or was it mostly you, or how did the originals happen?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I guess I was writing a lot of the guitar parts, and then my friend Tucker, he was the singer, so he would write the lyrics.
Okay.
And then and then together as a band, we would all collaboratively, like, basically put it all together. Cool. Everybody would almost write their own parts, and it came together. That's
perfect. Yeah. So
easily, yeah.
What kind of music was this?
It was heavy. It was like hardcore, I would say. It was like grunge hardcore, a lot of screaming, a lot of drop D tuning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not where we are now.
No, we're not there. We're not there.
So there are definitely some ellipses then that get us from Alex, in this band, hardcore screaming, to singer-songwriter, coffee house, darling, whatever. So what came next? Like, what was did you stay together for a while? Did that band go anywhere?
It ended after high school. Basically, like, some of us moved out of town to go to college, and some of us stayed behind. And so we did it for about 4 years, and then that came to an end. And I had started writing a little bit of my own music before leaving to go to college.
Okay.
And I went to school in state, so I was only like a couple hours away from where I grew up. But so I was at that point. I remember like one night after band practice, like maybe everybody had left, and it was just me, and I was still in the rehearsal space. And I remember like I wrote something for the first time. Like I wrote and sang something, and being like, oh wow, like that actually sounded like something. And
yeah.
I was like, wow, like maybe this sounds even better than the stuff that we've been playing as a band. Like one moment where I heard where I was singing, and I had never really done that before. And I felt really good to do it. And
so it was more like what you're doing now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that then was always in there, which is interesting to me. It sounds like you almost had to, some people know that they're a musician, like they know. It almost seems like you had to discover that, or figure it out. Like it kind of found you, which I think is really cool. But so once you started, I guess at that point when the band is sort of dispersed, you're at college, was that then the thing when you just started writing your own stuff, singing your own stuff? Okay. Did you perform? Were you like the guy on campus, like on the green doing Wonderwall for the ladies, or like, what was the, and by the way, I also have originals, but come here, Wonderwall first. It's the Pied Piper thing.
No, I was too nervous. I wasn't like, I was never like a confident person. So it was more like a private thing.
Okay.
But wasn't super apprehensive about showing it to maybe other musicians, but I was apprehensive about showing it to just like random people
Yeah.
or like
Okay.
random friends.
Okay.
But yes, I had like an 8-track or like recorder, and I remember bringing that to college, and I had that in my dorm room for a while, and I would after classes like record songs with that. So I immediately went into like the DIY like home recording.
Okay.
I loved that, so I immediately kind of got into that when I was in my early 20s.
Okay. And then did you play out when you were in college and after?
A little bit, yeah. And even in high school, actually, I remember playing I would just do open mics.
Sure.
But that was like the most magical experience. I remember like it was so cool. I remember there was this place, it was called the Slack Factory, and it was a building, I think, where they used to make pants. Hence the
so
Slack
literally
Factory.
like the slacks. Okay, slacks.
Yeah. And so like, and I remember I had never been to anything like this. And I remember like you went in and you walked up this long staircase, and it was a very like DIY thing. I didn't even know what that was. Like I had no idea. And it felt very underground, like very exclusive in a way. Like I was like, who knows about this? The way it smelled and like the dim lighting. And I just was like, this is like my place. Like this is where I want to be. And I remember there were some local songwriters that were playing that like just blew my mind, that were so good. And people who I still would consider incredible now. So I'm like, yes, they genuinely were really good.
Yeah.
Because even looking back from all this time, they still blow my mind. But and so that was at the end of high school. And then like when I was in college playing just like open mics and stuff like that. I don't remember playing a lot of like formal gigs, but
no, but your stuff is so well suited for open mics because I've been to thousands of them, over the years, and just, you cannot walk around here without like walking into somewhere and there's somebody playing something and singing something, right? So it gives you enough of a taste of someone where you go, oh, hey, do you have any tapes? Do you have any CDs? Do you have any? Do you have a website now? Whatever. So I imagine a lot of people got encouraging, I hope, because I haven't heard that yet. So like, at what point did you really feel like, okay, you know what, like sitting there alone after everybody left in the rehearsal space and writing something and going, okay, you know what, this sounds really good. There's something to this. Like, was that always the thing that drove you? Was it just you and this passion and your feeling for your music? Or like, did people start to go like, hey, Alex, this is really good. You should make an album, or you should do this, or you should do that, or...
I definitely had support and encouragement, from my family. My mom and dad were, like really sweet people, really supportive. My dad's an artist. They're like old hippies. So they were like really supportive, but also very much the type of parents that were like, do what you want. If it makes you happy, do it. But they were never like, would kind of like push me. So I never felt any pressure to do anything other than like what I wanted to do with it, which is good, but also maybe bad in some ways. Cause like, I kind of wish maybe I was pushed to like learn music in a maybe more structured way.
I see.
But like, I don't really have any regrets about that at all, but so people were encouraging, especially like towards the end of high school, like doing some of those open mics and getting like a positive reaction. And of course, like that feels incredible. Like when you sing a song that you wrote and you get that like applause or whatever. And that's really inspiring to just keep going and to keep writing. And then of course, then you just get blinded by like delusions of being like a musician, right?
Right. Actually making money for it, not having a day job. And we've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. And I like to say that I'm like perpetually kind of blinded by that, because I think it's like it's always a dream. And it's just, so, but yes, definitely got some encouragement when I was younger, and that definitely propelled it. But, for the most part, I think I must've just felt like a big emotional release through writing. And, like I'll probably, like so many people, just a way of expressing myself through music where kind of fall short, like in everyday life, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, no, I think, and I think given having listened to your considerable discography, you know, I get that. And I also get that, you know, what you're expressing has changed a lot over the last 6-7 years that you've kind of got up there, you know, right? And so I think before we get much further into this, because back in the day, by now, before they trusted me that I would do it on time, people would be clamoring for the song in the chat. So I think we should play everybody something so that if they don't already know you, and I know a lot of people in the community do, but probably not enough. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Single and Young? We're going to play that for everyone.
Sure, yeah. So we're going to play a song called Single and Young. It's off of this new album I released titled New Mirror, which came out in June of last year. And it's so funny. This song came about, when I was living in New York. There really is like a backstory to this. I mean, it's as you can tell when you hear the song, it's a story song. There's like a kind of a clear narrative to it in some regards. But I remember like I was working like 3 jobs, one of which was at this random like pop-up kind of restaurant scene in Brooklyn. And all the guys that I was working with were single guys. And I was like pretty well shacked up at that point. And just like kind of hearing endlessly about their kind of like escapades with like women and Tinder in particular. And just like being like, A, like not wanting to hear about that. And B, like also not being able to live that life and kind of envisioning what that must be like to like, be able to like just have that freedom, right? Yeah. So that kind of inspired, I think, the kind of, you know, meaning behind the song. But when I wrote it, I wasn't really thinking about ever singing it. I was almost writing it thinking I'm gonna like somebody else will sing this song.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah,
and so I wrote it and then I shelved it for probably like 4 or 5 years. And then eventually I was like, what am I waiting for? Like nobody else is ever gonna sing this.
I could just do it. Yeah.
So I was like, so I kind of I didn't rewrite it, but I re-recorded a lot of things. And but yeah, so eventually I just kind of decided that I was like, this is my song. Like I'm going to sing this. And
cool.
And yeah, so that's kind of the little anecdote about it and where it came from. But yeah, it's fun. It's kind of just like a short pop. I don't know if it's a pop, if you'd call it pop, but it's kind of just like a alt rock song, I guess, in some ways. So yeah.
All right. I think they're going to. So guys, this is it. Single and Young by Alex Pastuhov.
Rolling up a smoke on the steps. We bonded over our mutual love for the vodka and the New York Mets. And we talked for hours and ignored all our friends. We left them dancing in that sweaty loft. And I told you things I never tell anyone. I could have sworn that we were hitting it off. But it's alright, 'cause we're single. Oh yeah, we're single and young. And you don't wanna break my heart, and I don't wanna fall in love. I moved from California in the middle of May. Traded the sunshine for the streets of New York. Just a West Coast kid in the city of sin. You won't fit in, but you can always conform. Oh, and she was a Pisces, a transplant just like me. I heard the South when she spoke. And you know I'm a sucker for that sweet Southern comfort. And I just fall harder than most, but it's alright, 'cause we're single. Oh yeah, we're single. loser. Oh well, you're kind of a bitch. I'm sure we both could do better, but we just couldn't resist. Living in the city's gonna wear you down. It's gonna break your little heart in two. Millions of girls shining like diamonds and pearls, but none of them will light up for you.
So one of the people, and I always caveat this, that I never ever make comparisons unless I think they're favorable. So I don't know how you're going to feel about what I'm going to say, but one of the people that you don't sound like, but you remind me of vocally, is Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20, who's like, I think a terrific singer. So I absolutely mean it as a compliment. And this one, to me, for some reason, almost reads like a Rob Thomas, almost alt country song. Am I high?
That's that's so funny.
I'm not, but maybe I should be.
No, that's so funny. My friend Mike always says that. What do you think, I'm high? I just thought that was funny. Yeah. First of all, I know he's a fantastic vocalist. Still totally kills it. Great singer. I haven't heard that comparison before, but I take it as a compliment.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
I take it as a compliment. I don't know. I guess like you're high.
That's totally...
No, I don't know.
Yeah, totally, but I hear you. Like it does definitely have like there is a. It's not much like most of what you do, which is interesting to me. It's not like it's like, where did this come from? It absolutely sounds like one of your songs, but you really and it's one of the many things I love about your music and you as a musician is that there's so much to get from you and what you do. So you have some, I mean, we're not going to be able to go through absolutely every song, which I would really love to just because you have so many, but like you have some really just absolutely heart-wrenching ballads. You have some real kind of low-key fuck you anthem type things that don't quite sound like that, but lyrically, if you're paying attention, that's where we are. Yeah. You know, you have a lot of stuff that's very intimate and personal, you know, and heartfelt. And then, you know, you have some things that are more what I would call fun. Not that the other stuff isn't fun, but you know what I mean by that. Yes. Like the energy's different, the intent is different, right? So this one you were saying has been doing pretty well. You know, everything is doing well, but like this one seems to be especially of interest to the streaming populace. Yeah. Is this the mystery of what hits with people, right? And what does not. So how do you feel? I mean, like, is this a song that you really particularly like, or was this more of, I mean, obviously you were saying you had it on the shelf for a long time and weren't even, why weren't you intending to sing it, first of all? Like, is that because you didn't like it as much or you didn't think it fit you, or what was the?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I think I felt emotionally disconnected from it.
Okay.
So
that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I felt emotionally disconnected from it, which is maybe partially because, like I said, I was kind of, when I was writing it, was thinking almost about writing it for somebody else. Sorry about that. Writing about it with the idea that somebody else might sing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel a little disconnected in that way. But I really like the song. I think as far as just like a song goes and like like structure and like lyrically, and the bridge on that song is my favorite bridge that I've ever written. So there's certain parts of the song that I absolutely
that you really love. Okay.
I love the bridge on that song. That's like, and then there's some little guitar parts on that song that I really, really like too. And I love the way that one sounds. I love the way the drums sound. My friend Mike played drums on that. He also played bass. So I just think the rhythm section is really tight on that song.
Okay.
The production is pretty solid. And so like sonically, I really like how it sounds. But yeah, it's interesting because I think if you were to say, I don't think it's the most representative song of like me or my catalog, but it's a song that I thought would be nice to share because it does have a different kind of vibe. It's a little more upbeat there's even some like, I don't know, kind of like funny parts to it, I guess.
Yeah. No,
you get a sense of my sense of humor more.
Exactly. I was just going to say there is a really good dry sense of humor to that. Right. And I think that it's one of the things with you that I appreciate so much is that, there's an intelligence to your lyrics, and you do not always get that. Lord knows, like that's not something that's a given by any stretch. But I think that, you really, you cover so much emotional ground, with your music. And I think that I, having, started most recently, with New Mirror and working my way through that.
Yeah.
And then working backwards, it's a fun little time machine for me to see, because you do write things that even if maybe they're not actually personal, but they feel that way, so it's almost like reading a story in reverse a little bit, listening to you, kind of what you're describing, what you're talking about, where you are in your life. And so, I mean, I'm wondering at this point, we've left you, in Maine at college, kind of coming out of college, and then you landed in Denver next. Was that the next stop on the Carmen Sandiego World Tour? No, but did somebody wave at you in Maine and you had to leave, or what led you to Denver?
It's just mortified in every state. So we weren't in Denver, but we were in Fort Collins, which is about 40 minutes north of there. Cool little college town. It's like Colorado State University is there. And so I was in Portland, Maine for a long time, about 8 years. And that's also, like, I have to say, like, that's where I kind of discovered, that's where I got into, like, people like Elliott Smith and like Nick Drake and more of these, like, kind of intimate singer-songwriter, like Ray LaMontagne, people like that. So Iron and Wine, right? Yes.
You're naming so many people that, like, my mental notes are going, and this sounds like an Iron and Wine song, Boy with a Coin, and this sounds like, so I've done that with you already. So I hear those strands of DNA and what you're doing.
And I also got into, like, alt country a lot, like Townes Van Zandt became, like, huge, a huge influence in my life in a lot of, like, positive and negative ways, probably. But, like, got into, like, Townes and in Wilco, stuff like that. So, like, got out of, like, the heavier stuff, and, like, so that like, once I left my band in high school and really went to college and discovered these, like, more folky kind of singer-songwriter folks, so this stuff was not on my radar. Like, I was very, like, I was never, like, the crate digger, like, going through the records. Like, my knowledge of music was pretty tame and pretty local, whatever was on the radio or whatever, like, anyway. So then after kind of, like, getting into that stuff and doing open mics in Portland and wherever, all around Maine and a little bit beyond that, but eventually moved to Fort Collins and really, like, dove into the music scene there, like, played a lot of shows down in Denver and played a lot of shows locally and did, like, a little bit of kind of, like, regional touring when I was there, and also recorded a record and released one while I was out there.
Right. So now, was that Bad Galaxy?
So that was still under Alexis Pastuhov. That was a record I put out called Murder Your Darlings, and that came out in, like, 2013, I think. So So I mean, the order of things is a little bit unclear to me at this point, because that was May 2013-ish, I think. And so you are, you had so we're earlier on than I thought. I thought you were more recently there, but so I guess your timeline is shifted from where I thought it was. So you at this point put this out, right? Okay. And was it stuff that you had been writing all along? Was this something you wrote specifically for the album? Like, because you had wasn't All These Secrets like a couple, that was like 2010, right? Yes,
so
exactly. Yep,
so exactly. What about that one then? What was it? Because I mean, you skipped it. So you're trying to pull a fast one on me. So
sorry. No. Well, you mentioned Colorado, so I jumped.
Oh, that's where you were. Okay, so when did All These Secrets come out then? What was? And it's a great title, by the way, guys. The album is All These Secrets Made the Greatest Friends, which is, like, tell me about that first of all, because is that a quote from something? Is that just something you came up with?
Yeah, that's just a title that I came up with. But yeah, so that was a weird time in my life. So I had been living in Portland.
Okay.
And like, there were some like bad situations that my friends and I had gotten into that I won't go into now,
sure.
But like,
it's like Stanley, isn't it? It was Stanley. I knew it. It was Stanley. Stanley's back.
He's gonna rear his head somewhere in this journey. Yeah, no, anyway. So there were some bad situations. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of great things that happened too. I mean, mostly just good. But I kind of just reached this point where I was like, I need to save up money to make like a move, to do something different, to go someplace new. And I was kind of just spinning my wheels in Portland. I wasn't really able to save any money because I was spending most of it on rent and other bills and things like that. So I decided to do I'm going to move home with mom and dad kind of thing.
Yeah.
I moved back in with them in like 2009 or something like that.
Okay.
And was trying to figure it out. Like I found a job. I was able to live rent free. I was able to like work and save money. And like, and for that year, I was there for a year and I was like, I'm just going to be here for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go somewhere else.
Okay.
And in that time, like I recorded that record, and it's a, you can probably tell, I mean, it's a homespun effort. It's not like, I didn't go into a studio to do it. I engineered everything on my own, and
nothing wrong with that.
Really,
that's a lot of our chat right now. So
yeah. Did a lot of just like everything on my own on that record, and those were the songs that I had been kind of writing over the past couple of years while I was living in Portland.
Okay.
And I had finally like put together like a batch of songs that I liked. And then a couple of those I wrote like that year when I was in the process of recording.
So it was a mix of older stuff and brand new stuff. No, and you have some of my favorites of yours are on that album, right? So you have Someone Somewhere, which is just beautiful. And that's like, the guitars are just lovely. Now, I'm assuming all of that was you. Like, that was just everything. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, like, and one of the things I love about that song is that you start so quietly, emotionally, vocally, just, dynamically. And then over the course of the song, it builds. And we're never, Pete Townsend smashing guitars or whatever at the end of it, whatever. But, like, there's a power to it that comes from that sort of slow burn that I love. And, and maybe my favorite title of yours, Pickle for a Heart, which like, okay, and I love the simplicity of that. I love the emotion of that. And there's a woman singing, right? On a couple of these. Is it the same woman? And did you just randomly pull someone off the street that you waved at? Or like, see how I keep bringing it back? But like, where did she come from? Who was that? And what's the story with Pickle for a Heart? Because that's
Pickle for a Heart. Yes, it was this friend of mine, this lady named Erin Benner. Erin Benner and my other friend Katie Morrison. We sang together for a while. Me and them too. And then sometimes we had a bass player, and we just had like a little. It was like a little side project, and this all actually was that year when I was living.
It's a busy
year. My folks. Okay. So it was an incredible year. It was like a really like pretty formative in some ways experience. I made like a lot of new friends and made some like really, really strong connections with people, and also like it was just a weird time too. But yeah, so I had met them and we became really, really fast friends, and we would sing together, and then I eventually, when I was recording the album, brought Erin on to do those vocals. So yeah, she did a great job.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, and I mean, then you've got, I think right after it, the Roaring Twenties, right? Yes. Which is another great one, but a very different song. I think that's probably the darkest thing on the album. There's something like almost ominous about it,
Sure.
and so Now, because I was interested because, you could technically be writing a song like that about this decade, but that was 10 years before. So I was like, it's not about that. So,
Right.
I mean, how much of what you write is truly personal? How much of it is just you are a storyteller and you're, coming up with a narrative, and is it a blend? I'm not like, sitting here CSIing, like you're telling me if this story is what, but like, are you usually writing about things that are autobiographical, or is it, does it just feel that way?
No, that's early on. I would say like 95% of what I was writing was really autobiographical.
Okay.
So on All These Secrets Made the Greatest Friends, yeah, very much like either like from, direct experiences, or it's kind of like a pastiche of like real things that have happened to me, blended in with like almost some like, I don't know. So it's kind of like a blend of different things, like different like memories, different emotions, different, some of which is real, some of which is maybe like is real, but it's being told from the perspective of someone who isn't
someone else. Gotcha.
So things like that. But a lot of it was coming from like a very personal place for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so in that then to dig in a little bit there, as we talk about specific tracks, what is your songwriting process now? Because I mean, do you largely start with something on guitar? Do you have lyrics that come to you? Is it song to song? Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. Like, what's your, do you get a bolt out of the blue, or are you one of these people who sits down and go, oh, I'm going to write a song today, and then you can just do it, which is like the magic trick that I've never figured out.
I usually get like a bolt out of the blue of some like little snippet of something. Maybe just like a single line or like a melody. And then if it feels worth pursuing, or if it feels like really inspiring and whatever, and sometimes it might just be a song title also, but if it feels worth pursuing, if it feels worth kind of chasing down, then I'll take that melody, pick up the guitar, and like figure out maybe like the chords that kind of fit with that melody, and then kind of off to the races at that point. Like once I've got a little something, a little seed to kind of water and nurture and kind of go with, I very rarely, I'm not like a riff guy exactly. So I won't like write a riff and then be like, I should write lyrics over this. It's always, it's generally always like lyrics and melody come first, and then I'll pick up the guitar pretty quickly after that and just start. I think a lot of people do this where you're just kind of like mumbling things to the melody. They aren't really words. Maybe there's a few words, but you're just trying to find that rhythm, the vocal rhythm. You're trying to find that melody. And then once you get it, then you can find right words to it. But that's like how a lot of my stuff comes to life nowadays anyway.
And I mean, do you find that, because, as a young teen, writing poetry in my room, I was one of the angsty ones where it was like when something was, like that was my inspiration. I couldn't be happy because, I was a Wednesday Addams and I had to have something miserable to inspire me. Like, do you find that you are, because you do have some joyful songs, but more often than not, I think they tend to be more sad. They tend to be more serious lyrically. They tend to, so, and I also know that you have some pretty big gaps in releases, right? So you've got like 2010, 2013, 2017, and 2023. Like those are big. And I, life gets in the way. Totally understand all of that. But like, is it more that you, when you get inspired, but is that, does it take a long time sometimes to get hit by something like that? Or is it that you've been banking songs for ages and just life is kind of keeping you from releasing something? And I'm not bitching about your release schedule, by the way. I think like, having as many songs as you do and having as many, albums as you do, you're fine. But, it's so many people that I talk to are, sort of beholden to the cadence of Spotify where, you have to release something every month or whatever. And I totally get and respect that, but you're not doing that, and you haven't been doing that. And so I guess I'm kind of curious, if I were to distill all of that babble into a single question, what is sort of the cadence? What drives that? Is that a life thing? Is that an inspiration thing? Is that just an availability funds thing? What's how does that come about?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think it's honestly, it's generally more of like an availability and funds thing.
Okay.
Because I'm always writing, and I always would love to be releasing more music. Like I've got, a handful of songs now that I've recently written. I've just finished like a new song a couple of days ago. Oh, wow. I've got ideas for like other songs that I want to write that I just don't have time to sit down and write. I just don't have the time to like chase down an idea anymore. Most of the time, if I have a really good idea, like I can sit with it for 30 minutes. I just don't have that time like I used to be like, I can just sit here all day and like write this thing. Right. Now it's like, I have to be so motivated. I have to like, I gotta really chase it down if I want to get it. But yeah, I think when I was, so yeah, it comes more so down to just availability, funds, time, like not being able to, studio time is so expensive.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I'm also at this point where like, I can't, if I'm going to release something, it has to sound good.
You have a different standard.
My standard has changed a lot. Like it used to be different. Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair to you, even when you're not, it's not like there's anything that I heard that you put out where I was like, yikes. Okay. He's sitting in like some weird Chelsea bathroom, like, while somebody's screaming. Like there is I think that the songs that you put out and the way that they were, presented, produced, mixed, mastered, all of that to the extent that they were, it fit. There was nothing where I would say, like, if you had a Pigeon and Dove or a Reverse Psychology and you were doing that in 2010, it might have sounded like, like if he ever gets to redo this, it's really gonna pop. But like what you have on all these secrets, I thought it sounded great, Alex. Like I'm not just saying that. Like but I really did, because there's an immediacy to it because of the way, some of the stuff that you have almost sounds like live recordings and certain things, and some of it actually is. Yeah. And that works so well because you are a guy that people would be thrilled to walk into a coffee house or, an open mic or whatever and see up on stage. Because, I mean, look, let's be real. We've all been to and probably done those open mics where you're like, how my poor heart aches with every step you take. Please, Jesus, make it stop. Like, I mean, I love everybody. I want to support you, but maybe I could support you from home doing something else. Like, do you have a multi-level marketing thing I could buy? Because my ears, please God. So like, I mean, and I'm not saying I don't think I'm a great singer. I'm not shitting on anybody. I'm just saying like, we all have been those things where it's kind of like, okay, Grandpa Bob has been wanting to be a musician for 80 years and, he finally got a chance to get on stage, but it's not maybe necessary. And then there are the guys like you and the women, of the same caliber where they go on, it's like, oh, okay. And this community, if it's taught me anything, it's how much unbelievable, unknown, untapped talent there is out there. That you can turn on the radio and hear what you hear. And then, in the background, there's a Bobby Kane, or a Lisa Jane, or you, or like just, all these people where you're like, why do they not have a record deal? Why are they not? And not that that's the be all and end all, but like, so, I mean, for where you were when you did what you did each time, I feel like you had everything you needed and you got maybe you wanted it to sound different, but as a listener, I can tell you I mean, I've heard that in the past where I've been like, oh, okay, and I'll talk to the band and I'll be like, yeah, we're redoing that song. And I'm like, okay, great, because it already sounded good, but I know that now that you have a studio and you can go, it's going to be so much more what you wanted it to be. And like, I didn't get any of that. Like, I really didn't.
That's awesome. And I'm so happy to hear that.
I really didn't. And especially with that first album, you have so many great. Quiet Thing is fabulous. It's very it reminds and again, only favorable. Do you know that show Prairie Home Companion?
Yeah.
You must,
Garrison
right? Yeah.
Keillor. Oh yeah, I'm an NPR freak.
Right. Okay. So like not the way that you do it, but there is gentle, familiar, warm kind of thing that I get from a lot of the guitar on that album that reminds me of how I feel when I listen to that, where you're just like, and there's just something very cozy and inviting about that. And one of my favorite songs of yours is Teeth and Nails.
Oh my God, I'm so happy you say that. Wow, I'm so
Oh, really? What, is that not something that you...
No, but no, it's funny. It was just, I was going to say, like, that's one of my favorite ones off of that record. And it's a song that I don't play. I've only ever performed that maybe like a couple of times. But yeah,
really?
I really like the way that one came together on that album.
No, it's beautiful, and it reminds me in a way of, if you don't know the band, the Wormwood Project, you should. But Aubrey and the Wormwood Project has this very kind of, Southern Gothic feeling. It's just very, and like the harmonies in that song have that kind of moody intensity that I like. I love. That's I'm a complete sucker for that. But I mean, like, it's not a busy song at all. It's very spare. And one of the things that it's an analogy I use a lot, that, like when you're cooking and you're making a dish and you only have a couple of ingredients, maybe olive oil, some basil, some tomatoes, some pasta, whatever. Everything has to be impeccably good because there is nowhere to hide behind it, And so when somebody strips down a song, they've got to bring it. Right? Because you can't say, well, all right, we'll fuzz this out. It'll be distorted and nobody's going to hear that I hit like 18 wrong notes or I, fumbled this arpeggiation, or like, you've got to have it, and the lyrics in Teeth and Nails too. There's I was going to say repetitive, but that's the wrong word and it sounds negative and I don't mean to be, but there's a, you do repeat things in a way, like I don't really need it, don't really want it, don't really deserve it right now. And like the way that builds and the feeling that I get from that, it's like, that's a song I listen to, and I'm always mad at myself because I'm like, I have all these songs I need to go through because Alex has a lot of songs, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to listen to this one like 4 or 5 times. And I kept coming back to that one. Yeah. No, because it was, sometimes a song will just light up your brain. And that's one of them for me. And like and then you go right into treading air. Another one where I'm like, okay, I feel like that was such a successful album, so I don't want you to crap on it, like I'm going to be a little bit mad at you.
I keep thinking that I should pull that off Spotify, like both
please
of those.
Don't. No, please don't. Because it really
it's part of the arc. I mean, it is part of like my...
It's your history. It is. But even if it weren't, I mean, there's so much of that, and not that any of it was bad, but so much of that album, to me at least, was so successful. Like Treading Air, I get a little Colin Hay from that, who's one of my favorites. And like, and you really, it's beautiful, and that's kind of a pissed off song, and you have all these dimensions to the storytelling that you're doing and what you're doing with your voice and your timbre. And, when you have, women that you're singing with specifically, and you can harmonize in that way. And then that one, I think, is the one where it's octave, right? You're not. And like, so, and that builds a tension right there. Like you would be gravely mistaken if you took that down. I really hope you don't. Cause I would be sad if I'd be sad if I hadn't heard that, because it's also, if that was the first fucking thing you did, what are you mad at exactly, dude? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. Listen, I guess like ultimately, right, it's not mine to make that decision about, in a way, right? It's people like you who are listening to
it's me. It's up to me. It's 100% up to me. So yeah, so now that's it. You have to keep it up for it. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's like I put it out there, and like, but listen, I mean, I had somebody reach out to me and that had someone somewhere tattooed on their legs. Which was amazing. It was like the most flattering thing that's ever happened to me. Someone emailed me. Shit. Someone hit me up on Instagram and was like, I got your song lyrics like tattooed on my body. And I thought they were scamming me at first, but it was real. And we're like friends now.
So this was somebody you didn't know?
It was somebody it was somebody who like came and saw me perform when they were like a little child, like a 10-year-old kid or something.
Holy shit.
And they bought like a CD, and I don't remember this happening. And then they reached out to me on Instagram like years later. They reached out to me probably like 2 or 3 years ago. And we're like, hey, like, you probably don't remember me, but I saw you perform and I bought your CD. And like this song is like always like stuck with me and really resonated with me. And I got the lyrics tattooed on my legs. It was amazing. It was so flattering.
Oh my God. Like, who does that happen to? You're inked on someone's body.
It's crazy. I know.
And you want to take the fucking thing down? What is wrong with you? Like, that person will cry. They'll have to, like, you know, put makeup on their legs or something in protest. Don't do that. No, I'm teasing you a little, but I understand what you're saying. But like, I know that this, you know, I believe we started this tangent talking about, you know, studio time and it being so expensive, but that your sonic standard is different from what it was. But
sure.
I would even almost say, and it's presumptuous to do so, but fuck it, that if it keeps you from making music, maybe don't let it. You know,
it keeps me from releasing music because I've got, oh my God, I have so many songs that I've recorded that are just sitting on my hard drive that I'll probably never release because I'm like, I don't, you know, whatever, it's not professionally done.
See, one of the beautiful things about, you know, what this community has taught me is that most people, I think, are doing it at home. Most people are doing their own work, you know, and yeah, I mean, I have lots of friends who will say like, yeah, you know, I'm doing this on my own. And like, you know, I really wish I could send it out to somebody, or I really wish I could get into the studio, or I really need better mics, or I really need a better this or a better that or whatever. But it's like, if the choice is between making it to the standard that you have set for yourself versus not making it, I'm not sure about that, Alex. Like, and I can't tell you, like, obviously you wouldn't want to make something you were dissatisfied with or that made you unhappy, but fuck it, put them out, call it your demo album. Yeah. And then later, you know, a couple years later, you get money, you go in the studio, you record that in another 7 songs and you've got, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like given what do you feel like what you would be doing now on your own is around what you've done in the past when you didn't have access to the studio? Like, do you think like you would be about at the level of like in All These Secrets in terms of the sound?
It's okay. Well, first of all, that's a great question. I'll start by saying a good song is a good song. If you record it poorly, it's still a fucking great song. Like, you know, so that's to be noted, right? Of course, like, there's albums that I've listened to where the recording's not great, but like the song is so good, and so it's just it works. And I don't care. I don't care at all. Yeah. You know, like Redemption song, Bob Marley, right? Like I mean, the way it's recorded on record is great, but he could have recorded that anywhere, and you'd be like, this is a beautiful song. Like, so I'm still doing all of my recording at home. Mm-hmm. So I did like. For New Mirror, I did everything at home but what I've been outsourcing now is like drums, which is because I really want really nice sounding drums. And I can play drums, but I'm not like professional, and I don't have a kit. So
that's a bit of an obstacle.
That's so I don't have a kit, and so I've been outsourcing drums lately, and that's like been helping me to get sonically
stuff done. Because
it feels more done that way.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
But I mean, I love recording stuff at home. I also just love like learning how to do it and getting better at the whole process. And so that's part of why I started down that path, because I had some formal education in audio engineering, and so like that was really fun. And then I was like trying to translate that into recording my own music, and and then a lot of the artists that I admired, for example, like in Elliott Smith, like did a lot of his own like recording too. So I was really looking at people that I admired and being like, well, if they did it this way, like maybe I can try to do it that way too.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you know, and of course, like, and then of course you're like, well, of course the Elliott Smith record sounds so good. He's a fucking genius, and it's like in perfect pitch and like perfect time. But of course, like it's you know, it's been a learning experience for sure. Like just figuring out how to record and make things sound better. And I mean, I've gotten so much better at it than I did, 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
But I really appreciate what you said about that album, because I think there are a lot of like successes on that album as far as like the songs go. I still look back at those songs, and I think like I still perform some of them. I still perform No Memory, which is the first track off the album.
Yeah.
Which I really love. I still like that song a lot. And, I love all those songs. But yeah, it's an evolution. It's a learning process. I think, I mean, you make a good point. If for no other reason to leave it up online, there's a person who got the song tattooed on their
that's
body.
It.
So I'll do it for them. I'll leave it up there just for them if nobody else.
But that's it, and you said it that, and I've had this discussion with different people in different ways on this show, and just, in conversations in life about, once an artist releases a song into the world, to whom does it belong, right? Is it the artist's song anymore? Is it the audience's song anymore? And I kind of fall more along the lines of like, it's both, it belongs to you, but it becomes a part of other people. And I think that it's very hard, especially as a musician, as an artist of any kind, I think, given how often we are our own worst critics, right, in the first place, to be the yardstick by which we would measure a song's worth, right? Because the people who think everything they put out is great are largely not putting out a lot of great stuff, right? I mean, it's like anybody who thinks that they're done learning or done improving or done whatever, you've lost me. Like I have no interest in you. And the lack of humility alone will be a turnoff, because that will read in the music. There's an arrogance to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, for you to sit there, I mean, it's a little bit overstating it to say it, but it kind of shocks me that you would even consider pulling any of that down. Because first of all, I loved being able to follow you through those years, that and now knowing the story that, you were doing the smart thing, saving money, living at home, getting ready to like do what you were really going to do. And that you had this hugely meaningful year. And that album came out of that year, but it was also a little bit of carried from where you had been a few years before. Sure. So it's a real amalgamation of who you were and who you were becoming. Right.
Yeah.
So I have that going into, 3 years later, Murder Your Darlings, and sitting there and going, okay, the second that, I think Outside Shoes, I think is the first one on that. Yes. The second that one started, I was like, okay, we're in a different place now. Like it was, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't heard all these secrets. You know what I mean? So cool. It's, in a way, it informed everything that I hear of you, informs everything else of yours that I listen to. And I love that, because it's really like, I get off on that so hard, just seeing how artists develop, where they are, where they come from, sure. And hearing how their sound changes or doesn't, or they settle more into where they were and they develop more, it's like a picture that has more time to develop, where you go, okay, here was the seed of it, but here, here's where they got. But with you, it's both. It's like, okay, I can see that Alex is not in the same place he was 3 years ago, not even knowing the story, and that's sonically, and that's lyrically, and that's instrumentally or whatever. But, then the second song on that, Sorry Sons, right? Sorry Sons is that's my big Iron and Wine song for you. Like one of my favorite Iron and Wine songs is Boy with a Coin. And there's something especially about the way that you play guitar in that one that I was just like, oh my God. And I was going to ask you, and I was like, of course. I was like, does he know? I wonder if he knows about it, because a lot of people don't know that band, and I'm like, of course he knows. I'm like, Elliott Smith, he knows. Yeah, like he knows, sure. He knows Iron and Wine. But and again, you were already 2 songs in, and we've got completely different music from one to the next.
Every song on that record is very different from
totally different. Yeah. And I love that. I love that, you go from a Sorry Sons to a Tombstone Love to a Rabbit. You've got like, and really it is, it's in I would say that All These Secrets is more, what was the word? I'm trying, cohesive is not the word that I meant, because it sounds like the other one isn't, but like the songs are more akin to each other, I think, than
yes.
on Murder Your Darlings. But and that right there is new for me. That's new information for me. That's like, okay, Alex is a. So was that the intent when you started working on Murder Your Darlings? Was like, I want to mix it up every fucking song and just like show a range of what I could do, or was that just kind of what you and where did because you had, I guess you started writing all these secrets, you said in 2009, came out in 2010, so you had 4 years. Was that, you know, when we get there, where are we? Like, what were those songs all written for that album? Was that stuff you'd done over the last 3-4 years, or?
Yeah, there was a lot in like all these secrets. There's like a lot of longing in that album, I think.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of like,
it's a great word. Yes.
That's like the word I would describe.
It's a great word.
That's like the common thread through a lot of that. And then like with like Murder Your Darlings, those were mostly songs that I wrote kind of maybe like, I want to say maybe like a couple of those I had written while I was still in Maine, but most of that was all like written and conceived of when I was in Colorado. So we lived there for 3 years. So I guess that makes sense. It was about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Of like, and I released that record right at the end of our time in Colorado, right before we moved to New York. Yeah. And I wasn't really thinking like, oh, I want to do a record where every song is like very different, like sonically, but I love so many different types of music, and I'm inspired by so many different types of music. You know, it's like, I love Sam Cooke, but I also love Jeff Buckley. And I also love New Orleans jazz, but I also love, you know, Kurt Cobain. Right. So, I just love music. I love soul music so much. So I love just exploring like that part of my voice too. And, but I love the Libertines, and I love like Pete Doherty, right? Like I love like all this, I love so many different styles of music. But all that stuff kind of finds its way into the music, I think, in some way. And,
Absolutely.
And that record was such a fun one to do. My friend Nat Nelson was so instrumental in helping me pull that together. He helped to produce it. He's in a great band called Vatican Vamps, and they're based out of Denver, and they're just fucking incredible. They kind of remind me of like Queens of the Stone Age a little bit.
Oh wow, okay.
They rock really hard.
Wow.
Yeah, he's so good. So his name's Nat Lort Nelson, Vatican Vamps, and him and I became really good friends, and we're still close. It's a friend who I don't talk to very much that often, but like I consider a really dear friend. So he helped to pull that together. He did a lot of that like cool guitar, like really like ethereal, vibey guitar work on Sorry Sons. Yeah, and he's the one who plays the drums on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, oh man, no, but that's the I don't know you. Like I love, and you do a good bit of that on this album where you will hit an emotional note and you will keep at it, and I love that. And this album was the one where I was getting vibes all over the place. I heard there's a song from one of Sarah McLachlan's earlier albums called Mercy. And it is basically an a cappella song. And I don't know, most people don't know it. But it's this wall of sound, and it's just this intense thing. And I got from Sora's Pair of Eyes, I think it was.
Yeah.
I got that feel, but it almost sounded like if George Michael's cousin had sung it. And so I got that kind of a vibe to it. And then I got some Jason Mraz in like Just Go, like very sort of jazzy almost, but in a modern way. I was hearing, again, Iron Wine, I think, the one after that, Five Forevers. I got Iron and Wine from that. But then like you have 11 Fingers, I got They Might Be Giants.
Oh, interesting.
Constantinople, but like a rock version of it.
Sure,
and all of these cool, Hem with Rabbit songs on Tombstone Love, and I felt like that was an album where I feel like more of your influences were at play, and it seemed like you were still writing personally. You were still you. It was still your voice, but I feel like you were finding other dimensions and facets to your voice by that point, and feeling all of that, like that inspiration, at least, because again, I it's not derivative in any way. Like, for example, okay, the song I hate more than any song that has ever songed in the history of songing, and I'm sorry, Linda Perry, is What's Up by Four Non Blondes. The song makes me want to literally peel my skin directly off of my face, eat it, and then spit it at someone. Probably Linda Perry. I don't know why. There's something about that song, and I know a lot of people love it, but it's like the movie Clue, and Madeline Kahn is
flames on the side of my face, breathing, heaving breaths.
I can't. Now, what's really interesting to me is that I'm listening to Rabbit Rabbit, and I'm getting kind of almost like a little bit of a gospel vibe. And then in my head, I'm going, this reminds me a little bit of What's Up would have sounded like if I actually loved it. And Alex, it confused the living fuck out of me, because I was like, I should hate this song because there's something, and I think it's some of it is the guitar, some of it is the way that you're singing it, and all of that. But there's just like, because I really want to like their song. I really want to like it because so many people do, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? But my long-winded point there is like, I hear so many different, because what did I just say? I said Hem and Iron and Wine, and They Might Be Giants, and I got some Paolo Nutini from the Outside Shoes, which is funny because it's another Shoes song.
I was listening to him a lot, actually, like maybe around that time.
Okay.
His album Sunny Side Up is a really great one.
It's underrated, absolutely. But and I mean, again, I got more Matchbox 20, East and West, and the George Michael, Sarah McLachlan thing, and what? Like, no, like those are like, it's like, oh yes, my playlist is like Michael Jackson and Cannibal Corpse and Tiny Tim, and like, it's like none of those things have anything to do with each other, but you've somehow managed to very vaguely recall for me things that I love about those artists or some of those songs or whatever, which is really what I mean. It's not like, oh, you sound like, or, oh, this is a rip off of, it's nothing like that. But you're still doing something that is completely an Alex album, which is not like any of those things, except for maybe Iron and Wine, I will say. Like, you do have some it's overlap a little less,
there. It's less of a confessional album than the one before that.
Absolutely. That's true. Yeah, and the longing is not there. It's not the same thing. I feel like you're covering more emotional ground. But so with that album, were those songs, how did you come to write things that were not only so different from each other, but also from what you had done on All These Secrets? Because that's not that long after. It's a couple of years.
Well, it's interesting too, Christina, because I think like if you were to take away a lot of the instrumentation on Murder Your Darlings, you would walk away with a record that sounds more akin to All These Secrets. But I wanted to do a record that was more of a full band, like a big sound. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's because all of my writing happens just on acoustic guitar. So like if you were to just strip things back and say like only do acoustic guitar and bass and maybe like a little bit of vocal harmony here and there, you'd get a record that sounds more like All These Secrets. Right. But like, it would still be different for sure. It would still be different. I
was just going to say like, yes, I definitely, but
there's more intensity, right? Like in a song like 11 Fingers, that intensity doesn't exist on the previous record. No. Or like a song like Just Go, like there's nothing like funky or really groovy on the record.
Bluesy, jazzy. Right? Yeah, no, not at all.
And and even like Rabbit Rabbit, like that's kind of a blues like motif too, very much so. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't exist on the record before that either. So yeah, like definitely I like what you said about it's kind of, I think I was wearing more of my influences on my sleeve maybe a little bit with that album, and also just really having fun with like the production side of things. And I think with my writing, I always want like every song to at least have like one little earwormy catchy thing.
100%. Yeah.
Even if that's not the chorus, like even if it's just like a little like,
and a lot of times it's not exactly. You'll have a little riff that you throw in on the guitar, or you'll have a little fill that's on the drums. Or you'll have a little absolutely. But I love that you're not just going like, okay, let's live for the chorus, because you want the whole. You don't. I mean, we all know those songs where you're like, yeah, get through the verses. The chorus is the cool part, you know. Right. So yes, I definitely hear. So okay, so that's an intention that you have, is that you want to make sure you've got something that's going to snag people.
And I just love melody. So like anytime I can think of like a fun little melody to throw in, like to. Like I said, just little like earworm things. I love hearing that on records like that I love, where like maybe my favorite part of the song isn't like again, like might not be the chorus, but it might be the bridge, or maybe it's just like the bass line that I love so much. So definitely there was a little more like maybe attention to, it was a bigger record, more going on for sure, more production.
And then from the songwriting standpoint, though, like, you know, what was was writing the songs different as well? Like, was what was turning you on different? Was it happening in a different way? Was it more, you know, based on, okay, well, now I want to bring in a band, you know, it's not just me and my guitar and my voice. Like, how did that change it? Like, were these things that you felt like you could have done just leaving them acoustic, but you really wanted to have it? Like, how was it different than writing all these secrets?
I mean, I think it was really just having a vision and like hearing these songs in my head a certain way, and just not being able to bring that to fruition in the recording process. It's so funny though too, because I mean, I feel like when I finished both of those records at the time, I was like, I felt, you know, and I still think fondly of those albums for sure, but when they were done, I think I was like, I think this is as good as I could have done it. You know, like I felt really positive about it, like for sure, like in the moment, like was like, yeah, the sounds, it still wasn't quite the thing.
What you wanted.
You know, like there's the thing, and it wasn't quite the thing, but it was, I was like, this is as close as I can get it for now. And like to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier, is like, I didn't not want to release the music. Like, if I was to just wait for the thing, I would never have released anything ever.
Exactly.
Because so part of me realizes like I can't. Yeah. That's going to just prevent me from putting anything out. So I can't just wait to be at Capitol Records in Studio A or whatever, right? Like fucking A, man, that may never happen. Right. So you know, you got to eventually just put your best foot forward with the tools that you have, and like get the music out there. If you feel really strongly about it and feel like it's a good song, then if it's good enough, then it'll work. I mean, listen to like Bon Iver, right? For Emma Forever Ago, like that album. I'm not the biggest Bon Iver fan, to be honest with you, but you can tell like there was something about that album. Like it was recorded like in a small cabin. It's very like lo-fi, but some of those songs are really, really good. And
but you're right though. And I mean, like I think often of what Ambrose from Anger Overdose, there's the reference. I have to say it in every episode. What Ambrose said about how one of the hardest things about being a musician is getting the thing that's in your head out into the world. And everybody was like testify when he said that, because I think we all know that whatever kind of art you make, I think that is the thing. It's, you know, is it the painting or the drawing or the you know, the instrumentation or the story or whatever that I have in my head. You know, and I was just talking to Neil, you know, of The Sorrow, and he was like, you know, same thing, like writing a story and having this vision of what I want it to be, and now I have to make it come out on film, and I have to show people what's in my head and how well does it match. And that is a maddening and exhilarating process, right? But so, you know, at the end of it, you know, could you say there's something else I could always, there's always going to be something, you know. And I mean, I wonder if, you know,
you can also do too much.
Absolutely. How many people have been sitting, you know, doing their mixing, and they're like, "Oh, if I just tweak this," and then like 4 hours later, they've destroyed everything,
ruined.
And they have to start.
Way worse. Yeah,
that's it. And you know, what is that? It's a don't let perfect be the enemy of good, or whatever. There's like a saying for that, you know. And I think that it's not about settling. It's about, you know, understanding when, you know. It's like, you know, part of being a live band, you know, you go out and you're on stage, and I played with a guy for years who, like, if he hit one wrong note, it was like his entire family had just been, you know, murdered, you know. And I'm like, dude, nobody heard that but you. Okay, maybe we heard it in the band, but nobody gives a shit. I was flat on 4 notes, you know, like, nobody cares. That's not what you're listening for. You're not listening for perfection, you know. And yes, in terms of sound quality, that's a different thing, because I have said before, you can have a great song that if it's done really badly, you're going to lose that magic. And if you have a terrible song that's just produced the shit out of it, it's going to sound a hell of a lot better than it actually is. But as you've said, a good song is a good song is a good song, right? And so, you know, and on this, you know, on Murder Your Darlings, it's like, I felt like I heard you grow up musically, not to imply that All These Secrets was juvenile or less than or anything. It's just what you already had that was so good, and now you've built upon it and you've expanded it. And some of that is that you have, you know, the band and the instrumentation and all of that. But it's also watching you play in all these different playgrounds, you know, and to see that everything of yours that I hear, specifically each album that I hear, I'm like, okay, I'm meeting you again now, Alex. This is another, and I love that. I love that, you know, I could finish with, you know, an album where I've gone through all of these terrific songs that are so different from each other, that are still personal, but also like it's different genre, it's different feel, it's different energy, it's different lyricism. And see completely where it came from its older sibling, right?
Right.
And then, you know, we're 4 years later, and we're at Bad Galaxy. Yep. And I'm going, okay, here we are again. This is a whole other Alex. So that's your New York era, I'm guessing, if I have the timeline right. Okay, so you've done, you know, you've done All These Secrets, you've done Murder Your Darlings, you've moved again.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you do an album every time you move? Is that kind of what?
Yeah, and I'll also say that like all the moving has made it really hard for me to get established anywhere.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I release an album and get any traction, I've had to leave. Move. Yeah. And that's made it really hard. It also, you know, made it hard to like promote the records. But yeah, so the Bad Galaxy stuff started when I was in New York, and that was a project that did become a band.
Okay.
It was first a solo project. I was kind of trying to reinvent myself in a way, because Alexis Pastuhov is like the most impossible name to like promote. Like I can't like, I've realized now if I play a gig, I need a sign that I actually will bring one that will be like, I try to be clever about it. It'll have my name, but it's like, it's really a sign so you can send me like a Venmo tip or something. But otherwise, because no one can like remember how to, they can't, it's phonetic, but if you just hear someone say it through a microphone, like,
right. It's not Sam Smith. It's not, it does not necessarily roll off the tongue.
No,
it is worth knowing. But I hear you.
I will say I feel like it's been detrimental to like me being able to get my music out there a little bit, but like whatever. So the Bad Galaxy thing, I was like, this is a moniker that I
not
liked.
my name. Yeah, not my name. Yeah. People
liked it whenever I would tell them like the name. They'd be like, oh, like that's really cool. I like that. Yeah. So like I felt good about it. And then like we had the band, and that was awesome. We were just a trio, but super fun. And the three songs that I put out, I guess it was, what is it, 4? Yeah. I think it was just 4 singles.
From Bad Galaxy?
Oh no! Oh my God! What am I saying? There was a whole album.
No, I was like, you have an.
I forgot.
I think you're thinking of maybe like your SoundCloud stuff.
No. I was thinking of 14th Parallel, Never Been Afraid.
Yeah, that's all the stuff I heard on SoundCloud. Yeah, because I was like, okay, I'm like, those are the ones where it's like 2 and then 3 and then no, but I'm like, Bad Galaxy. There's like 8 songs or whatever. What do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. No. There's so the Bad Galaxy. Yes, I put out that album. And then I also put out like 4 singles. I'm pulling up my own profile.
Oh, I was like, what are you doing?
Whoa, this is crazy, Christina. I have like, usually my Bad Galaxy listener count is like 10 people. It's at almost 700.
Holy shit. Okay.
Like literally, like I don't even check this anymore. And it's
clearly
usually
not
at, like, 10 people.
No, there you go.
What's happening?
I mean, is it like individual listeners? Because I was gonna say I know a lot of that is me, but if it only counts as one, then I'm only one.
It says 676 monthly listeners. So anyway,
there you go.
It's that's so cool because it normally
see now maybe
like
maybe somebody has the lyrics to like Bad Thoughts tattooed on their back. You don't know. It could be those people. You have a small cult that you're growing that you weren't even aware of. See, look at that. Look at that. Crazy. The interview pays off. You found out you had like 70 times what you had before. Okay, well, congratulations on that. Folks are seeing Alex realize in real time how popular he actually has gotten from something he put out like 7 years ago. So, okay, So no, that's always in a minor key, Prosperous Sun, Damnage. Right. You've got a lot of Bad Galaxy. So it was a trio. So
yeah, it was a trio. That album though. So the album, that 10-song album, was mostly actually I actually did everything on that album by myself.
Okay,
that was like maybe one of the first ones where I think I did everything on that one. Whereas like even on the first album, like my friend Aaron sang on that. I had like somebody play bass on like I think 1 or 2 songs. But so yes, the first Bad Galaxy record was from 2017. That was you know, an individual.
I love that
effort.
It's the one that is not named after you, and it's the one that was just you. There's a delicious irony to that. Everything else is Alexis Pastuhov, and then there are other people, and you're like, but I'm going to keep Bad Galaxy all to myself. So no, and I mean that's another one where it's like great song after great song after great song, you know, and I mean, I get some Fiona Apple in there.
Oh my God, she's like my favorite. I love Fiona so much.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot to recommend her, but I think it's All of the Flats.
Oh, that's my favorite.
All of the Flats. Okay, so there you go. And I love the shit out of that song. Did you say that's your favorite on the album?
Yeah, that's probably. Well, I don't. They're all my babies, but that's probably my favorite on the album.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, it's just there's such a begging quality to that, and like this heartbreaking, and the lyrics are so vulnerable. You know, this idea of just discovering that you've loved someone all wrong, you know, and I love that idea so much because there's so much baked into that makes me happy. Like it's emotional intelligence and it's accountability and it's bittersweetness and it's longing and it's regret and it's, you know, still love and it's all this other stuff. And I really, and you do that again, that call me or, you know, where you've got your lyric that
dog, call me your howling hound.
And there's so much. That song makes me feel like, oh God, Helena Christensen was in the video looking all sexy on the beach. It was Chris Isaac. What a wicked game. There's something about that song just from that, like even when it comes in when you're just like, oh,
it's so good. Yeah,
that's how this song made me feel. It was that same kind of thing of just like, not because it sounds anything like Wicked Game, it does not, but it had that, again, we bring that word back, longing, right? It had that like just that passionate, desperate, like regretful longing and that. Not something that I would say I heard sound like that, either lyrically or sonically, on anything else that you had done. So again, we're hitting things that are new, you know, and I find that fascinating about you as an artist, that, you know, because you can plumb the depths of whatever you have emotionally as an artist, and at a certain point, you know, you're kind of double dipping and triple dipping, and it could start to seem redundant or repetitive, or, you know, just like a stale carbon copy of what, you know, I mean, like, you know, stuff that we loved Elton John doing in the 70s, and now, you know, he's, you know, 10 years ago he's performing, and we're just like, oh, you know, please put the Lion King down, you know, like we're like, all right, you know, you're still great, but you're mostly being grandfathered in here, you know, and
right.
and I never get that with you. Like that album, 8 Billion Links is another one that I just fucking love on that album, you know, like, and Smart, right? But like, I mean, you keep covering new ground, and I find that interesting. Like, and I don't know how much of where you're living and the fact that you've moved does that. Like, how much of that is baked into, you know, is your inspiration just so different that you're coming up with things that you haven't hit before? Like, or are you just that endlessly sort of iterative, or like, what's the deal? Why are you able to come up with so many things that are different from everything you've done before, but yet still make it sound so much like you? There's a question, right?
Yes, that's a beautiful question. And I've had people like, I've had people kind of make like similar observation, but yeah, that's a really tough question. I don't know if maybe there's some kind of common, I think it's the emotional thread that runs through a lot of my music, which is like the common piece. I don't know. Like I try to be really like authentic and sincere with what I'm saying. And when I say it, like I try to like deliver in a way that that kind of carries that through. And, you know, I think I touch, there's some recurring themes too throughout my music. I think, recurring emotions, and maybe that's those are some of the threads that kind of like tie things together. But yeah, 8 Billion Links, that's a fun one too. That's like a real slow burn where I feel like I feel like if you can get to the end of it, it has a lot to offer, but I feel like it's long, so I don't know how many people ever got to the end of that song. But
really? Okay.
But I like that one.
That's surprising. I mean, is that just something that you worry about, or have people given you that kind of feedback? Because like to me, it's
that, but I worry about it because I'm like, it's long, so I'm just like, I don't know, people's attention spans are so.
No, well, that's very, very true. But no, I mean, it reminds me, just in the progression of it only, and in the way that it smolders and builds, almost like oh God, what is that Radiohead song? How that song, as it goes, it just keeps building upon itself and layering upon itself. And so when something is like that, I first of all never noticed I have heard songs where I'm like, okay, I have like 4 minutes left to the song or whatever. I wasn't paying attention to any of that. And one of the reasons, Alex, that happened for me with this one is because the song a little bit, don't hate me, I love this band, reminds me a little bit of the Bee Gees.
Interesting.
The Bee Gees, a little bit. It's a little bit. It's mostly in the vocals, and cool, I can't really articulate that better. Good. A little bit, and I mean, really, one of the better bands and voices. I think they get a lot of shit because it's like fun to mock them, but tremendously. I mean, first of all, you never get blends like that unless you have family. Right, you just don't. True. The timbres don't ever match.
Blood harmony, yeah.
But I just, the tone on the acoustic is so beautiful in that. It's got that kind of chimey quality, and I think that immediately sets me up with the kind of emotional resonance that I'm going to have. And then you really kind of turn it into like this cool alt rock thing, and so I hear what you're saying. I don't think people are going to get lost, in a matter of minutes there, but I know what you mean. It's like we are in the TikTok generation or whatever, but like,
right.
But again, and like, but that, all of the flats, you've got Howling Jaws. That's another one that like I And this was where I hear, God, I
Are you gonna say
remember
Talking Heads?
No, but it's
I've
not.
heard people say that.
I'm gonna say Danny Elfman, Oingo Boingo, Dead Man's Party era. That's where I'm gonna go with that. Is that bad? Is that good?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I know Danny Elfman, of course, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was back in the 80s. That was his band. And he and just you could tell back then that he had a lot in him. You know, it was a weird fucking little band, but it has that sort of like it doesn't sound like anything else. You know, his band doesn't sound like that. And this song for you, very different, even from not only everything on the album, but everything I've heard you do up until this point.
Yep.
So where did that one come from? Do you remember?
So with 8 Billion Links, I remember like at the time I was listening to that band Beach House a lot.
I know the name, but I don't remember what they did. Was that a band that had like one or two songs?
Just check them out. Check out Beach House. They've got a lot of records out, but there was an album of theirs in particular, and I can't even remember the name now, but I was really on a big Beach House kick at the time when I wrote that. So that that definitely like influenced it a little bit. Although I will say like what I ended up coming up with wasn't really like very Beach House
that at all. Okay.
that was the inspiration maybe. And then what was the other song that you were asking about?
Howling Jaws.
Howling Jaws, yes. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something that was really electronic.
Yeah.
You know, I used to, at the time when I was living in New York, for most of the time, I was working in college radio promotions. So I was working with bands promoting their records to college radio stations. And so, as you can imagine, like I just digested so much new music through this job.
I can relate 100%.
Yeah,
that's my life right now. Yeah.
More than I ever before in my entire life, like just was so many different styles, like so many different.
Okay. That makes sense.
I was just being like inundated with like so many different things. And it was all like, a lot of it was really inspirational to me. And, so I must have been listening to something that was very electronic, but so yeah, that's, and then I'm also a big Talking Heads fan. So I don't know, maybe some of like that, like kind of funky guitar stuff that you hear on that song was a little like Talking Heads inspired.
Little David Byrnish. Okay. Yeah. No, and I really, I think that's, again, like I get, with, Damnage. Am I saying that right? Damnage?
I actually just call it like Damage, like I don't know.
But it's spelled with the N, right?
Yeah, like the word damn.
Like damage. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Okay, damage. I gotcha. Oh, that's clever. I like that. But that's another one where I got that sort of sexy George Michael feel again, you know, and so
that's got a teeth and nails kind of sexy vibe to it.
Yes, and it's fun because for me now, having listened to everything that you've put out, at least as far as I know, I can sit there and go, okay, you know, these are the lines where I can connect and I can kind of see, like, not the progenitors necessarily of whatever, but like I can see where this is sort of a musical sibling, and that's what. And then there are some that are just like total outliers, you know. Sure. But great, and I love that, you know. And again, the last two songs on the album, I remember thinking very Colin Hay again, who again just so. If all anybody knows of Colin Hay is Men Without Hats or whatever, Land Down Under, like go listen to his solo stuff because it's remarkable. Waiting for My Real Life to Begin is one of the best things I've ever heard in my life, and like that's the kind of Colin Hay that I hear. I mean, but like I really lyrically, I feel like there's an edginess in a lot of this album too, like Always in a Minor Key, which I'm assuming is a little bit of a reference to just the music itself, right? But you know, just that what is it? First you give up and then you give in.
First you give up and then you give in to it.
And then you get and like I was just like, oh. And everything that you say before that in the song, you know, this character that you're building and the story that you're telling, and by the time you get to that line, it's just so satisfying, you know. And I really appreciate that if I were reading your lyrics and I couldn't hear the music, I would enjoy it. And if I were listening to your music and I didn't have any vocals on it, I would enjoy it. And then you put those two things together and you're like, because sometimes what you're singing about and the instrumentation that you've put it to don't line up in the best way, and where you've got these very sort of like bright kind of, instrumentation pieces that have these really sort of dark or angry lyrics. And I always love that because it makes me pay attention in a different way. But so we get through this album, so you're 2017, you put it out, you're in New York. And then I'm assuming at some point you had to have moved again because yes. You put out New Mirror rather. So now, just before we move to that, like the stuff that's on SoundCloud that I heard, like 21st Century Dread and 14th Parallel, and I'm assuming at least 14th Parallel was a little more recent given the subject material. So where in the timeline do those fit? Were those the singles that you released around the same time that you mentioned earlier, or as Bad Galaxy?
Those. Okay. Yeah. So the Bad Galaxy album came out in 2017, and then let me just pull it up to see the exact.
You've got to cheat again.
I gotta check and see the exact year.
I love it. Because those
2020.
Have that.
Those were
2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those three songs were all released in 2020, and then we moved in 2020.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
You had to. So again, like so never been afraid. That was 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. That was that one. I got Eagles. I got some Eagles.
Nice.
Which is funny because 14th Parallel, I heard some Jim Croce. I heard some Don McLean. And so it's funny. So in a way, like, your more recent stuff had some older influences that I felt coming through. And then that one, The Best, that's another Bee Gees song for me. That reminds me a little of How Deep Is Your Love. Do you know that one?
Yeah, I used to cover that. I used to cover How Deep Is Your Love.
Okay.
With
yeah. And so so who are the kids at the beginning? Are those your kids?
That's my nephew.
Okay.
My nephew,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I love little touches like that.
Yeah, I didn't have any little ones yet at that point, so they hadn't come along yet. But yeah,
so okay, you got very new ones then. Okay, so
yeah.
No, all right. So we've got all of that, and then you move, and so because you've moved, we know you've just released an album, and you're a minimum of 3 years away from releasing the next one. Yeah. So this puts us pretty squarely. You were maybe a little behind, but I imagine Humans were being made in the middle there. So you get to 2023. You got June of 2023, and you release New Mirror. So. Was that a backlog of 7 years of music? Was that something where you just stepped away for a while? Okay.
No, it's not. It wasn't a backlog. There were a couple older songs, like Single and Young. Like, again, that was like one that I wrote when I was in New York. So that was like a slightly older one, but Pigeon and Dove was also like a little bit older.
Love that one. I think that's the first song of yours I ever heard. I think that was the first. Yeah, I think you released that. And I remember the first time I spoke to you on Facebook, I remember sending something and saying, like, I really love Pigeon and Dove. And you were like, well, hey, thanks,
Yeah, for sure.
That's a great song.
Again.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Because I get a little bit of Fleetwood Mac. I get a little bit of Gypsy. I get a little bit. It's a great song.
That was one that I must have recorded it like 4 times before.
Really?
And I scrapped all of the other recordings of it. And then I finally decided to keep this one. And this was like very different than all of the other versions I had.
Oh, wow.
Before,
okay.
But I'm really happy. I'm like really happy with how that one came out.
Yeah.
I love the when that like electronic drum part kind of.
I was just gonna say the drums get so funky and cool, and you don't expect it from the beginning of the song.
You don't. That's why I love it so much. You don't expect that to happen at all. So.
But it doesn't feel out of place or abrupt.
Right.
Oh, are you playing?
I didn't mean to. I actually.
I was like, Greg's probably playing it over top now in the editing, but no, we got the
I'm
live.
Just doing a little subtle producing over here on my end. Don't worry about it.
Alex is like, and here's this one. But okay, so you have moved and you do not have a backlog. So where did you move to? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm in southern Vermont now.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. I did know that. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're
you've
pretty
sort of
well
worked your
settled
way
down
back up.
here.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're
we're working our way back up. Yeah.
All right. Well, so, I mean, but you're whoever is in the house with you must be a little nervous. Now that you've released an album that you're going to have to move again, knowing your history. So is there a little trepidation there that like, no, we don't want to go anywhere else. But okay. So tell me how New Mirror came about, because again, like another side, another level, whatever we want to call it. Like, so you had finished in 2017, you put out the singles in 2020.
Yep.
And then, so did you sit down and say, okay, I'm writing a new album? Is that, since you said there wasn't a backlog, or?
Well, so, the 3 singles, Never Been Afraid, 21st Century Dread, and 14th Parallel, those actually kind of were supposed to be on New Mirror.
Okay. I see why they're not. I think I see why they're not, but okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I ended up just, I was like really eager to get music out. So I was like, I'm just going to put these singles out.
Yeah.
And then I moved. And so like, I couldn't go back to the studio where I had been recording those other songs. Plus like I couldn't afford it. Yeah.
The absolute, level of apropos that my opening question turned out to be for you, in terms of just, do you completely move and start over? Like, I did not really think about how perfect a question for you that ended up being. But okay, so Alex leaving a history of bad checks and buried bodies and from state to state or whatever. So now you're in Vermont, right, and maybe have a little time.
Yeah. That was definitely part of it. I just really I set the goal for myself. I was like, I got to get a record out.
Okay.
So I'm pretty good with like setting goals and sometimes getting there, or at least when it comes to music stuff.
You're like, I can set the goals. Don't ask me to meet, but I can really good at setting them. Yeah. I think that's generally the less difficult part of the process.
I can set some goals for you if you want me to. I'm really good at that.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And you know what? I'll set them for you. We'll do each other's hair, and then we don't actually have to meet them. We've set them. That's the important part. They're set. That's all
that matters. Yeah, exactly.
It's been set. They're set.
The future is uncertain. So
that's right. There you go.
Set goals. Yeah, so I had a little
That's
more time.
A t-shirt. That's 100% a t-shirt. The future's uncertain. Set goals. Alex Pastuhov music. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you answer the question. I promise. Go ahead. I'm shutting up now.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't know. Yeah, I had a little more time. I had a couple songs that I had written like right before we moved from New York that I like, for example, like one of my favorites off the record is called Days Turn Dark, and I had written that one right before we moved.
Okay. It's beautiful. Did you do that? Did you do that live, or does it just sound?
Live.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
that was one where I was like, I just wanted it to be like a live one take kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it's great. And you know, it's got that coffee house vibe, but there's a maturity to it too. That, you know, and again, I love that. I love that your story, you know, builds from, okay, so you wrote that before you left, but then I guess, you know, that's a pretty big album. So some of it is after you've moved to Vermont and you're.
Yeah. Like off the grid, I wrote when we got to Vermont.
You want to know what I think about that one? It's the weirdest combination.
Yeah,
Weird. What are you going to say? No, I mean, what in my head, I hear kind of a Steely Dan thing, but your voice, I swear, in the weirdest way, your voice sounds to me like Carly Simon. I know, it's so weird. No, but first of all, I love her. Like, I love her.
She's like, you're so vain, right? That's Carly.
Yeah. Great. Thanks. Make me feel old, Alex. But yes, she's married to James Taylor. All of that.
She invented the Victrola, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. She was one of those old-timey singers when they had that radio thing. Yes. Carly said. But she's got this really cool timbre, and there's a cry to her voice that I hear in this one, and I love that one. So okay, so that was, and again, I still get some Matchbox 20 out of that, but so okay, Off the Grid, that makes sense given where you're living.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we had the internet for today, so that's a good thing. But okay,
for sure. House on the Hill, I wrote that when we were here.
Okay,
I think you know, a couple of these I actually wrote right before we moved to Vermont. Like Iris Eye, I remember I had finished that. Reverse
another
Psychology.
Bee Gees.
Yes, reverse psychology.
Okay. Okay. Can I
3
ask
Hearts
you?
I wrote when we moved.
Can I ask you about reverse psychology? Like,
Sure.
because you fake us out a little bit on the open there with the beat, right? That's a little bit of a twist, and then it kind of it switches up. So, like, for a song like that, did you have 2 parts of a song and you kind of wanted to combine them, or was the idea like, I'm just going to throw something different at the beginning here and then change it up?
I just wanted that kind of like underwater kind of muffled drum sound to like open. It's just like because I was also thinking, well, it's cool when a song starts with drums. Like, you don't really get that very often.
That's true. No, that's true.
So
yeah, it's usually guitar or whatever. Yeah.
That. Yeah. So
yeah.
It's that like
yeah.
with that. And then it's the same drum beat when it all comes in. Right. It's just clear and the fidelity is high as opposed to that so that was just like a little, that was actually a little last minute production thing that I wanted my like the guy that engineered it to do. So so you were starting to say, so you said 3 Hearts you wrote. That's a big Sam Cooke for me, that one. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I really and who's that, Louis Armstrong too? Is it What a Wonderful World? Is that Louis Armstrong? That's Louis Armstrong. That's Louis. Yeah. No, I mean that's where I hear some of that come in for you. And it's not something that I've heard too much of up until that point. Sam Cooke is just and there's that, you have that intensity and you have that vulnerability, but in terms of just the genre kind of feel, this was more one of the ones where that's unusual. And again, your New York City Lullaby, which that's where it screams Elliott Smith to me.
Oh, cool.
Screams. And it's funny because when I research, I do the music first because I don't want to know. Because a lot of times on Spotify or on Facebook or whatever, people will put like, these are the bands that I like or whatever. And I don't want to know that. I want to come to the music clean. Yeah. And so when I saw you mention Elliott Smith, wherever you mentioned it, I don't remember. And I was like, yeah, okay, yes, good job, Alex. Because I get that, like I totally get that. But I mean, it's okay. So it's a combination of stuff that you wrote before you moved and then after you moved. And then did it come quickly? Like, did that one come together? I mean, it must have come together fairly fast.
It did, yeah. Once I started recording, it did come together pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. And then again, I did everything. Well, I did most everything except for the drums. And then I had my friend in New York who has a studio in Brooklyn. I hired like a bunch of different people to play the drums, and then the guy who engineered those drum sessions, he mixed and mastered the album.
Oh, okay.
I actually mixed and mastered it myself, and was about to release it, and then I was like, I don't know. I was like, I think this could be a little bit better.
You do that. I'm getting a real theme here, Alex, that you definitely.
It's a miracle anything's been released.
I was just about to say, I'm actually so grateful and surprised that you have put things out based on what I know now, having talked to you tonight. But like, yeah, I mean, I think, it really, specifically To Be Anywhere, because it's such an interesting and totally like different way to start anything that you've done.
She asked me where I would go.
Is that, first of all, is that your voice with effect? Is that you?
It is. That's my voice. That it's just like pitch shifted.
Okay, yeah, it had that like sort of Dateline NBC feel at first, and I was kind of like, oh, what are we gonna? But I love what you say there. And for anybody who hasn't heard it, and you're all going to go listen to everything that Alex has ever released now once you're done here, because that's, it's moral imperative. It's just this, and I resonated with it so hard, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like, I don't want to go back to a place. I want to go back to a feeling, I want to go back to that. That's the it that I want to get to. It's just this idea of, like, if you're feeling free and feeling loved and feeling at home and at peace. And like, I get that so deeply, and it's a quick song. It's not even a minute and a half, I don't think.
Yeah. And there's no real music to it.
No, it's this, the recording, the woman, and then you've got that almost like sounding thing at the beginning. Right. Where did that come from? Like, what was that? Was that something you did after the rest of the album was done?
It was almost, yeah. It was like
Okay,
it
I
was one
got
of
that.
the
Yeah.
last things that I did,
Okay.
and I was just thinking a lot about sense of place
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like thinking about like people, you can like run from things physically, you can run
Mm,
from things like mentally,
yeah.
and just really like thinking about how no matter where you go, like the classic thing of like no matter where you go, there you are, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can't really get away from yourself. And so I
Exactly.
was really
Yeah.
thinking a lot about that, and also reflecting on like moving again, I think, and like moving around a lot in the past
Yeah.
couple of years, and just being like, I'm not looking for like a place exactly anymore. I'm just looking like for a feeling,
Yeah.
and like that's the
Yeah.
destination.
Yeah. No, and it's great. And what I love about it is that what I always kind of boil that down to, as I think most of life does, is belonging and connection, and
Mhm.
when you move as much as you do, um, I think that the geography of that becomes far less meaningful than the emotional piece of it, right? And so, and I love that that is where we begin an album that has a lot to do with belonging. It has a lot to do with connection, and really kind of in a way synthesizing everything else that you've done. I mean, you have songs about
Mhm.
the city, you have
Yeah.
NYC Lullaby, and I love that there's that, 90 seconds or whatever of it, and then it comes back, and the it's not the last song. I think it's one or two out from the end. No, because Under Control ends that album, I think. But that you bring it back and you've got the full song there, and it's so tender, and as somebody who lives here, it's like, okay, that there's just a lot of that baked in, and the album is so it's confident, I think, is a word that I would use,
Awesome.
where, yeah, and I think that it makes so much sense to me that this is the album that you've made 13 years after the first thing I've heard you do,
Yeah.
and then like seeing all of that, that it's about where you were, it's about where you are, it's about who you were and who you are. And I guess, we'll have to see what it's like when you write another album in the same place. This is going to be a whole new thing for you.
Yeah.
Presuming you don't go anywhere, it's going to be like
I
this.
think
All
I'm
the
sticking
songs are going to be like
around.
still in Vermont. No moving trucks. Like those are all the titles or whatever. Like you're gonna have something.
It just
But
depends on how embarrassed I get.
it's true. We got somebody. If anytime anybody wants new music from Alice, just go wave at him.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's it. That's the catalyst for the whole thing. It's like opening the wardrobe to Narnia. But like, I really, in wrapping up, I wanted to say a couple things in case I haven't said them clearly. Like, I really appreciate how honest and vulnerable, and I think you used the word authentic, and it's a word that I've had in my head listening to you a lot over the last year, that, or 6 months, whatever it is, that you're there's no pretentiousness to the music, which a lot of singer-songwriters can veer into very easily. I don't feel like you are overly or even entirely impressed with yourself, which I love because it keeps you in that hungry place that, all these secrets came from. And I love that I feel like you're being as genuine and vulnerable on New Mirror as you were on everything that came before it. And I'm also glad that you don't stop yourself from releasing things, because it would be a real shame. Your music makes the world a better place, to sound trite, but it does. And I love that I'm steeped in metal and rock and all this stuff, and I love it so much. And then when I listened to you, it was like going home in a way, because it's
Yeah.
so much of the stuff that I always love to listen to and love to sing. And that does not in any way, shape, or form ding or negate or say anything negative about my beloved metal community, my beloved rock community, everybody. But it's just, I don't talk to a lot of singer-songwriters anymore, and
Sure.
I think that I love that you haven't run out of things to say, and I love that you haven't run out of new but faithful ways to to present that to us. So, even though you're not hopefully going to be moving, I hope you're planning on releasing something again. I know you've got a while, because we're not going to expect a new Alex album, for probably a couple of years or whatever. But like you said, you're still writing. Do you think you might release singles at some point? Do you think what's the plan for Alex going forward?
Well, I am excited to say that I just got the drum stems for a new song, and I expect to actually have like a new single out. It's a track that I've been playing for a little while, but it's kind of it's one I'm really excited about sharing. It's called Capital Hits, and it's not done yet, but like I expect to have it like done in a couple of weeks, and that's gonna be the first thing I release this year. And then I want my goal, if I can set a goal, is to release another album this year, but it's going to be a stripped down album that's going to be maybe just acoustic guitar and vocals. Back
to your roots. Okay.
I want to do something that's more reflective of what I do live now. Because the albums, I love doing like a full production, but I also want to do something that maybe just speaks to more like what you would hear if you came to see me perform right now.
Right.
And so I'm like really excited about that, because I love the idea of it being really simple, which feels more like achievable.
Yes.
But not doing it just because it's simple, but because like I really want to try to capture like this different kind of vibe and see how people like respond to that. And so I've got like a batch of songs that I'm feeling pretty good about. I don't know if I'll do a full album or maybe just like a 5-song EP.
Yeah, EP or something.
Yeah, I want to get it out this year.
That's huge. So, and I'm excited by that too, because I want to hear what that sounds like, a decade and a half later, right? Like, I because, you're bringing everything that you've lived in that time to it. So that's a big deal, Alex. You're just giving Mr. Fancy Britches with, two albums out in the span of, basically a calendar year. That's impressive. So, by the time this airs, it's probably, we're looking at maybe April, I'm thinking, or I don't know, it might even be early May. So theoretically, there could be a song out or almost out by that point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, I imagine there will be. I think I'll get this.
You've set the goal. That's all we know. We don't know how it's actually going to be met.
Set it and forget it. Is that what they meant when they were talking about goals when they said that?
Set it and forget it. If it wasn't, it is now. That's headcanon for me now. So I go, no, but I'm that it's only going to make me happy to know that there's new music coming out.
So there's new music coming out.
That's great.
I've got like I'm excited to like share this interview when it comes out, and I've got another like local. There's a local TV station that's going to come and doing an interview with me in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited about that. So I'll definitely share that out when it's ready.
Yeah. All right. So you have a lot of irons in the fire then.
Yeah, there's a couple of things going. I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about feeling good about music. I've been buying new music equipment for my little home studio and stuff. So I'm like trying to get inspired that way too. So yeah.
So this motivation that you say that you really need. You have it right now.
Yeah, I think
got
so.
That.
Yeah, I've got
Terrific.
it at the moment. Yeah,
it makes me happy to see you so excited about it. Especially knowing what you do to yourself once you're in the process. I hope you can hang on to that youthful exuberance, Alex, as you get into the thick of things. But listen, I know we're almost done, but I cannot let you go without our last little thing that we do. Okay. I don't think you know this, but I do like to end every show with a little segment that we like to call In the Vox Seat.
Okay.
I have asked every musician who's ever been on this show the same 5 questions. Now, I will prepare you that usually people hate at least one of them, and me for asking. So there's that. And that the final question has become, I don't want to say it's the key polarizing issue of our time, but it is. It will win you fans. It will lose you fans. So you'll have to think carefully about your answer there. But let's start a little more simply, if it is simple. If you had to describe your music, and you do, in 5 words or less, what would you say? Can be words, can be a phrase, can be a sentence, however you want to swing it.
Yeah. I would say it's dynamic. It's honest. And it's always changing.
Okay, always changing. We'll do it.
Did that fit?
You did. It was under 5 words. You even have
Okay.
another one if you wanted it, but I feel like you've covered it pretty well. I also have to say, I would be remiss. There was a moment when I was asking you that question where the lighting and the way that you were looking down, you completely looked like a Renaissance version of the "Losing My Religion" video from REM. It was like anybody who's seen that video, now you just have to start doing that weird dance that he does in the video. But okay,
the lighting
yes.
is changing because it's getting dark here.
Yeah,
so
no, it's great. But you had that like almost angelic kind of whatever angle, and then the light behind you, and I was like, wow. So yeah, ADHD. Thank you. But okay, I love all of that, and I think that everything that you said. I mean, it is dynamic, and that's within albums, and it's across albums, and it is honest, and it is always changing. So yeah, I think you're good. Okay,
yeah, there's more there, but yes, off the cuff, rapid fire.
That's absolutely fine. You can't be expected to do more. You have packing to do probably. So okay, all right. So you've answered that one. This one may be a little easier. What is your favorite thing about being a musician?
My favorite thing about being a musician is kind of just like the alchemy that comes with writing a song where like there's nothing there before, and then all of a sudden at the end you have like this thing that didn't exist before. Yeah. And it's like a part of you, and it's like it's almost like you've released something from yourself, and it can feel really good to release that thing, and also to be able to like look at it and hold it kind of and reflect on it. And then, just kind of that satisfaction of like completing a song and getting that thing off of your chest, whatever it may be.
I love that. No, I love that. And I think that's so satisfying on so many levels for both the person doing it and then the people listening to it. So, okay, great answer. Now, flip side, if you have one, your least favorite thing about being a musician, besides having to move every time you release an album. Yeah.
My least favorite thing about being a musician, especially like a musician who's trying to get their music out there, is social media and just like the paralyzing kind of anxiety and doom that can come with the obligatory social media engagement. And I don't hate social media. It's great in a lot of ways. But if you're an artist, like that, and then just the fact that you have to be like a designer, a performer, a publicist, you have to wear all these hats, and it feels almost impossible. So that's all like kind of the administrative stuff is the hardest.
Yeah, I got you. No, I think that's a common answer to like the marketing business kind of side of things. It is. It's funny. I don't know if anybody's articulated that specifically, but you're right. You're sort of, it's like being a mom in a way. You're expected to be like 100 things under one job title, because it's true. You have to like, and there's all this stuff to it that like there are times of day and certain days of the week that you have to post, and it has to be a picture but not a link. And how the fuck are people supposed to know? I still haven't figured it all out. I wish I had, but that makes a lot of sense. So it's not the music, it's about the stuff that comes along with trying to be a musician that people will actually get to hear from time to time. Yeah, okay. All right. Totally fair. This one, I'm very interested what your answer is going to be, because you've rattled off a lot of potential contenders here. But if you had to choose, and this is the question people usually hate me for, if you had to choose just one album to listen to for the rest of your life, what album would you choose and why?
Wow.
It sucks, doesn't it?
I will tell you this.
Okay.
Probably my favorite song is Naive Melody by Talking Heads.
I don't know that.
It's also known as like This Must Be the Place. Maybe.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So that's like one of my I would bring you know, you could. And back in the day, they used to call that a record. So
right.
yeah. But as far as like front to back, oh my god, that's so tough.
I know what it is.
Probably Grace by Jeff Buckley.
Great album. I want to say maybe Aubrey from the Wormwood Project picked that one too, but I'm not entirely sure. I was thinking maybe you were going to say John Bon Jovi. You know, I thought maybe, you know, Stanley was going to make a comeback again, but Grace is a fabulous album. So besides the fact that it's just a fucking amazing album, why specifically that one for you?
I don't know. There's just something about Jeff that was so like magical, and his voice was just so one of a kind. And I feel like you can kind of get something new from that every time you listen to it. And it just kind of like, just draws out a lot of emotion. You know, I think if I was stuck with that one on my desert island, like I'd be crying a lot on my desert island, but you know, I don't know. Yes, but that's one I could go with.
Okay.
Yeah, I could probably go with that.
No, nobody's gonna be mad at you for that one. I definitely,
Asia by Steely Dan is also fucking phenomenal.
Okay. No, but now you only get one. So if you had to choose, would you stick with Grace?
I'm gonna stick with Grace for this for this interview.
All right. He's trying to sneak in a second album, folks. We got to check under his shirt because he's trying to smuggle another one in. But okay, all right. So you've done a lot of work here today, Alex. But really, none of it means anything because this question is happening now. Brilliant. And give me a minute because I have to settle the chat. This is an ongoing thing because Joe from Freaky Things is typing in all capital letters right now. Please don't screw this up, Alex. I like you. Freaky has a lot of skin in this game. Dom, if he's here from Jamsteak and Anger Overdose, quiet resignation. He's very dignified about the position that he's in here. You, as I said, will win some fans and lose some fans depending on your answer here. But I need you to answer honestly anyway, even with that immense level of pressure upon your shoulders. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Your toilet paper roll. When you put the toilet paper on the holder, does the toilet paper come over the top or do you pull it out from under the bottom, and why? Do you need to text somebody?
I usually do it. It comes over the top.
Okay.
And I also don't have a preference.
You are birolius.
I'm birolius. I could go either way.
Okay, so
I wouldn't complain.
Okay, Joe, I'm sorry, honey. I cannot count that as an over because it may be the way that it is, but his preference does not exist. So that puts you squarely in. We have 4 categories. We have over, under, other, that's you, and Dean. Dean from the other Broken Ones, Anthony St. Peter's band. I keep telling this story because people are like, what's Dean? Dean does not care either, but what Dean will do is wherever he goes, whatever orientation the toilet paper has, he will switch it to the other way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a bold move. It is. So Dean is our Vox and Guest resident shit goblin, literally and figuratively. And so Dean has to have his own category. So we've got over, under, other. Dean, you are in the other category, which is the second most popular.
What about the category of the people who don't put it on a roller at all and just kind of,
Other.
Okay,
yeah. We have Chucky from Freaky Things, who uses dude wipes. He's another. We have William and Melissa from Sepsis, who are bidet folks. They're others. We've got Joel from Grimrock, who wants to put it on a paper towel holder, which would have it sideways. He's another. We have a lot of others. The main reason that we get for under seems to be cats, that there are cats in the house.
Oh, okay.
And the main reason we get for over seems to be either the patent or, and Dom from Jamsteak famously made me laugh so hard I spit out whatever I was drinking at the time. People will talk about how filthy the wall is in a bathroom and that if it's under, they have to reach under and they might touch the wall. JD from Death Pigeon famously said there could be spiders there and then apologized to the spider community. Alex, there is a level of thought here that you just seeing the way your eyes widened at that. If you have no idea the level of opinions. If you go back and you watch the last like 5 minutes of every show we've done, you're going to see a range of passionate opinions on like anything that you've ever seen in life before. It might be something where you need to write like a 14th parallel level song about it. It's that hot button an issue. So I feel like I don't want to put words in your mouth musically, but if you're looking for another single, you know, this might be a thing. Do you see if it inspires you?
I'm feeling inspired already.
You look inspired. You definitely look like something is happening right now.
Wheels are turning for sure.
It might be chunks rising in your throat. Something is definitely happening. But listen, okay, you I think you've done fine. You have not necessarily angered anyone. You are in a solid second place community there. And more to the point, Alex, I'm so glad that you came on this show, and I really want everybody watching, you know, liking, following, subscribing, all of that. It doesn't inherently mean anything because numbers are bullshit, and we all know that. That's the social media smokescreen, right? But the whole goal in this is that everyone makes music with the idea of being heard and being seen and connecting to other people. And everything that Alex does is very deeply in the service of that. And so I would love if more people got to hear everything that he's done. And especially if you listen to all these secrets and you are as angry at the possibility that he might even consider pulling that off Spotify as I was, you can send him nasty grams in his DMs or whatever.
Or just tattoo something on your body as proof that you...
That's it. That's all he asks is just some large level of ink with some of his lyrics. On the face. He wants a whole Mike Tyson thing there. Yeah, that's it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Something over the eye. But Christina, thank you and Greg so much for having me. I really appreciate all of your interest in my music and all of the kind words and all of the supports. And it's so amazing to have people like you out there that are just such advocates for other musicians and just stewards of good music, and really genuinely appreciate your time and all. I know how much work is going into what you and Greg are doing. It's a massive effort. And on behalf of everybody that's involved in the community and that's been on the show, like, thank you so much for doing it and for showing up for all of us. Definitely an honor to be on the show. So thank you for having me.
No, that's so sweet. Thank you. It is literally our pleasure, but that's really, really good to hear. So thank you again for coming on. And guys, thank you again for watching. That's another Vox and Guest in the books. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.